So, hello friends, Dizona here, and man, I'm finally back after a while from, my family vacation and other stuff. And not only that, like I have like a lot of like art projects, assignments from all of my school. And not only that, the next week will comes around and there's gonna be another, like I think it was like an exam. Yeah, I'm really like tied in with my hands here with a lot of stuff that I need to deal with my school, man. And there's also still like a lot, like today, like right now it's now late at night, man. Like I really have to record this video because I'm gonna upload this hopefully on Friday or possibly on Saturday too. Oh, also friends, I do have to thank you all for my recent videos has been actually doing well lately, and I'm very thankful. And I very much welcome for the new people here in my YouTube channel. Hi, I'm Tizona. I just like make horror reactions and I guess giving advice, like I don't know, drink water. So today we're going to react on Nexpo, and the video is going to be Finland's most sinister unsolved mystery. It's kind of interesting because Finland is a very peaceful country, and I never know they also have a lot of secrets. So here it is. Before I'm going to play this, friends, hopefully you can leave a like and subscribe to my video so that hopefully in the future I can make more videos like this. And thank you for all your support and all of the support lately, So welcome, friends, and let's get right into it. Follow late night at Nexpo. Man, I am so bad. I am not so bad at like speaking and stuff. Oh man, Finland is so beautiful, so peaceful. Lovely people too.
On the 4th of June 1960, 4 teenagers decide to camp at Lake Bodom in Finland.
Okay.
While their trip began just fine, all of them would wind up dead. Except
Spoiled?
for one.
Oh, okay.
Grab a
Murder
snack
survived.
and kick back, because tonight, in story time. Welcome back, my friends, to Late Nights with Nexpo.
I'm getting chills, actually. Is the chills, maybe scary or comfort?
You awake from a shallow sleep.
Okay.
For a moment,
Goddamn.
you think it's morning already, but then you remember it's still night.
Okay.
During the summer in Finland, midnight is indistinguishable from dawn. From where you lay inside your tent, the night sounds perfectly peaceful.
Okay.
Crickets chirp softly outside. Not far away, the lake's gentle waves lap rhythmically against the shore. It's idyllic.
Serene.
And yet, you can't shake the sense that something is wrong. Something imminent.
In a perfectly peaceful lake? That's crazy to even think about. But maybe, your guts is telling something, and it's probably might be right.
Then you hear it. A crunch of foliage outside the tent.
Okay.
Then a quick twang. The sound of a rope snapping. Someone is cutting the cords that hold up your tent.
Uh-oh.
You try to escape. But the tent is already collapsed down around you, smothering your cries for help.
Oh, damn. Not a good start already. Under the midnight sun. That is very paradoxical if you can't think of it. Because Finland is like somewhere in the night and also kind of morning. So early like sun. I guess they have a different
June
time zone
4th,
there.
1960. A pair of motorcycles drive through the countryside of southern Finland, carrying 4 teenagers and their camping gear.
Okay.
On one motorcycle sits Seppo Boisman and his girlfriend Anya Tuliki-Maki.
Oh man, that's so
The
sad.
other is driven by Niels Gustafsson, with his girlfriend Mila Bjorklund in the back.
Oh.
Mila's 16th birthday is coming up, so it's the perfect excuse for the friends to escape the city for a weekend camping trip.
Oh,
And
sad.
soon, their destination, Lake Bodom, comes into view. It's about 3 kilometers long and 1 kilometer wide, surrounded by pine and birch trees that make it feel quite remote, in spite of its relatively close proximity to the city of Espoo. At an intersection near the lake, they stop at a roadside stand. The mature woman working the kiosk is less than pleasant to them. She seems wary of their group, and when asked, she suggests that they camp far away. Confused but undeterred, the group buys some soda and beer, then heads off to find a campsite, as planned. As they pull away, Mila shoots a glance back at the stand. The woman is watching them go. Mila finds herself wondering whether it's safe to camp here. She's already noticed that there are not many tents set up along the lakeshore. There are plenty of hikers and swimmers, and the occasional boat out on the lake. It seems odd that there aren't more overnight campers on the weekend. As they scoured the lakeshore for a campsite, Mila, Nils, Seppo, and Anya encounter a handful of day trippers, people there for hiking or fishing, but they make sure to find a nice secluded space to set up. It's not long before they find the perfect spot, a small outcropping on the south shore. They're right by the water, but screened from public view by the trees. They lean their 2 motorcycles against nearby trees and pitch a small tent that's just big enough to fit them all inside.
It seems like they try to, I guess, camouflage away from the public. So I don't know why they're still fine in this type of place. And it seems like a lot of people are, outside from this lake. I guess there's someone at large here, some kind of, a serial killer, perhaps, a murderer. We will never know, man. Because I'm pretty sure this is a mystery for a reason.
Mila keeps thinking back to the woman who sold them their drinks, the look she gave to the 4 of them, her cryptic warning. Mila hopes that they won't get in trouble for staying here.
Goddamn. I just hear the piano from the background. It's like, oh man, that makes me feel full impact, man. That's a very, very calming music and very serene. And it kind of like even contrasts like the horrors this story is gonna unfold. Man, I can't help like those like small keys of pianos, man, in the background. Let's hear it once again.
Warning. Mila hopes that they won't get in trouble for staying here. Since this is her birthday celebration, she'd feel awful if something happened. But her concern starts to evaporate as everyone settles in by the lake.
Okay.
It's been an especially hot summer, so the cool breeze over the water is just what they needed. The boys crack open their beers. Anya stops complaining about how annoying her dad was about letting her go on this trip.
Hell yeah.
And finally, Mila relaxes as well.
Oh man. There's that awful
The day
dread.
comes to an end, but the sun doesn't set. They may be in southern Finland, but they're still close enough to the Arctic Circle that the sun never fully sets in the summer. It dips low until it's barely touching the horizon and stays there. And as night falls, the sky dims to a sort of warm twilight, a phenomenon known as a midnight sun. All in all, it gives everything a beautiful, eerie look. By 2 a.m., both of the boys are drunk, and Anya is sleeping. It gives Mila enough privacy to make a quick entry in her diary, made possible by the light of the midnight sun. She writes that the boys are still awake, that Seppo is out fishing. She doesn't write for long, and soon she's putting away her diary to try to get some sleep. That entry would be her final words.
Damn. It's so sad, man. You also have
9
the dark...
hours later.
Oh, it's not actually that long.
By the shores of Lake Bodom.
Okay.
The midnight sun has brightened to a warm summer's day once again.
Oh no.
A local man, Esko Johansson, arrives with his 2 sons. They take in the stunning scene before them. If today's going to be anything like yesterday, it'll be perfect weather for swimming. They make a brisk walk towards the lakeshore, eager to plunge into the refreshing water. Yet, on their way, an unusual sight stops them. From a distance, it looks like a pile of trash.
Damn it.
Suddenly, Esko seems tense, uneasy. He stops both his sons from walking any farther and tells them to stay where they are. He's going to go investigate and make sure everything's all right. He approaches and sees that the pile of trash is actually a tent. It's collapsed in on itself, and there are dark stains all over the shredded cloth. It
Shit.
looks like blood. As he draws nearer, his fears are confirmed.
Oh my god.
There's a bruised and mutilated boy lying on top of the tent, and the body of a young girl partially concealed by the torn fabric.
Okay, interesting.
Immediately, Esko runs to the
Okay, that's a very interesting position from the body. You can actually tell a lot of story, just the position from the body itself from the dead. Yeah, it's kind of very interesting. So it seems like both of the girls are within the tent and both of the boys are from the outside. And it seems like one of them is dead from the outside. Was he trying to help them in this case? Because I don't know why the other one survived.
nearest phone and calls 112, Finland's emergency services number.
Okay.
And within an hour,
I do have to say something. Here in the Philippines, we don't have any type of like 3-number, emergency numbers. It's kind of very weird to even have that. All of our numbers are always like very, very long.
Finland's emergency services number. And within an hour, the police are swarming the scene. The body that had first drawn Esko's attention is that of Nils. He's barefoot and covered in blood. His face and skull show signs of intense blunt force trauma, and the tent beneath him is slashed to ribbons. The other body spilling out of the tent belongs to Mila, and the state of her body is even more horrifying. Her bones are broken, and she's covered with deep stab wounds.
Oh
She's
shit.
been stripped from the waist down.
Okay.
Inside the tent, the police find both Seppo and Anya with similar wounds all over their bodies, though
Okay.
none as extreme as Mila's.
Whoa.
Each
what
of the
fuck?
teenagers have been stabbed and bludgeoned. They all have broken jaws and severely fractured skulls. While searching the tent, the
God damn. This suspect is probably hating Mila for whatever reason. Like, holy shit.
police make a shocking discovery. Nils is still alive. The 18-year-old boy stirs, moaning in pain. Blood bubbles up from his mouth. He can't do anything besides moan. His severely broken jaw prevents him from speaking, and immediately, an ambulance whisks him off to the nearest hospital. By this point, bystanders are already starting to crowd around the crime scene, morbidly curious about what all the commotion is about. As the number of bystanders grows, it becomes clear that the police have neglected to set up a perimeter.
Oh
The
my
crime scene
god.
becomes an absolute mess, with countless pieces of forensic evidence trampled or lost.
It's like they're
Amidst the
finding a
commotion-
needle. It seems like from all of the people there, like trying to like dirty all the work and muddy all the water. It feels like more and more you're trying to, find a needle from the haystack in here.
Or lost.
Damn.
Amidst the commotion, what police are able to piece together is this. There's no obvious murder weapon, though the tent has been slashed, as if by some sort of blade.
Okay.
It seems the attacker struck at them from outside the tent, and the teenagers fought to escape before succumbing to their injuries. Out of everyone, Nils was the only one who managed to get out.
Man, that's so painful. Also, it's very interesting. Like, from 4 of them, almost 3 of them have been killed, except for 1. It's kind of crazy. To defeat 4 people in this case, you need some kind of like a lot of men at least to, equalize the numerical advantage. In this case, it seems like it's either pre-planned or there's a lot of people trying to execute this type of plan. But it's kind of complicated to even like consider like how do you even like destroy like except unless you probably separate all of them, and kill them individually. In that case, it would be a very bit easier. But in this case, it seems very odd that if there was a one person, if we assume there was one person, how did he overpower four of them? It's kind of crazy, actually.
The tent
Mystery.
itself seems to have been roughly ransacked, its contents scattered around the woods.
Annoying.
A few key items are missing, including wallets and watches belonging to the boys,
Oh
the
my
shoes
God.
that Nils had been wearing, and the motorcycle keys. However, even so, the motorcycles have not been stolen, as
Yeah.
both are still parked near the campsite.
I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that the girl, who unfortunately been brutalized more than her friends in this case, I'm pretty sure this may some kind of jealousy, I guess.
Mila still has her diary on her, but it doesn't provide any substantial
Oh my
clues.
God.
It seems she was too busy relaxing by the lake to note if anything was amiss. The only thing of note is that she was still awake at 2 a.m. and that
Okay.
both boys were drunk, though it's unsurprising for a pair of teenagers on a weekend getaway.
Hmm.
The police also find the shoes that belonged to Nils about a kilometer from camp. They're half buried in the undergrowth and covered in blood.
What?
A couple of birdwatchers come forward to police with the description of a potential suspect, a tall, blond man with a square jaw. They claim that they saw him near the campsite in the early hours of the morning. This is corroborated
Okay.
by a 14-year-old boy who was fishing around 6 a.m. and claims to have seen a blond man standing beside the shedded tent from afar. Neither the fishermen or the birdwatchers, however, were close enough to see the bodies. Locals continue to come forward with their own theories, their own suspects, and soon the police are overwhelmed. What they really need is for Nils, the sole survivor, to
Yeah.
help make sense of all of this information.
Information. Hopefully he
He's
has.
recovering from his injuries, unable to talk to anyone. But the police are certain that once they have his account of what took place that night, the story will fall into place.
Not so much.
But there's only one problem. As
Okay.
he lies in his hospital bed, Nils can't remember a thing.
I kind of suspect that he's maybe a potential suspect here too. Maybe? I don't know, actually. It's kind of, as I said, it's a very interesting to even plan all of this with a single person. Unless that person is very, very big, I guess. And it's kind of almost impossible for Niels to even like don't remember any type of like evidence in this case. I don't know. I'm not Sherlock Holmes here, so this is getting crazy. Makes your mind think.
Later on, when Nils is finally able, he gives a short statement to the police. He remembers little to nothing of the day before. His only memory of the attack is that of a dark shape which he glimpsed through the holes in their tent. Any other crucial details have been lost in the head trauma he suffered.
Damn it.
The police, drowning in clues offered up by locals, want to see if they can jog his memory. After he's discharged from the hospital, they pay him another visit. And with his consent, they hypnotize Nils and ask him again, "Who killed your friends?
Any
What
details?
did you see?"
Yeah.
In his interview, the results are more concrete. Nils describes the attack, fighting to get free of the tent as the intruder batters away from the outside. He says he got free of the canvas, only for the mysterious man to kick him in the jaw, breaking it and knocking him unconscious. Afterwards, he was left for dead. Nils describes the attacker as a man around 20 to 30 years old, about 5'8", with blonde hair combed back and a strong chin.
Okay.
This is
Interesting.
promising news. His description seems to match up with the figure multiple eyewitnesses placed near the scene. The police hypnotized the 14-year-old who claimed to have seen the blonde man, and again, ask for a description.
I don't actually believe in hypnotism, but there is one thing that hypnotism kind of achieve is for you to get tired and being focused. It's like you're being focused and partially get tired. And I think in this case, it really tries to focus within your mind on those like type of memories, But I don't tend to believe this type of stuff. It would be very interesting though to have like studies on this, like on scientific stuff, because I'm pretty sure this is not yet studied and well known, because psychology is a very complex subject.
He says the same thing. A blonde man with a square jaw. Using the descriptions given by Nils and the eyewitness, the police are able to create a rough composite sketch of the man they're looking for. The 3 deceased teens are buried the following week. The event is photographed by the press, and when these photos are developed afterwards, they reveal something that no one noticed at the time.
Okay.
Among the crowd of heartbroken mourners, there stood an unidentified man, a blonde man with a strong jawline. The authorities' first real lead on a suspect comes from the staff of Helsinki Surgical Hospital, located about 25 kilometers southeast of Lake Bodom. On June 6th, the Monday after the murders, a distressed blonde man is brought into the ward. He's requested urgent assistance, though the doctors don't notice anything physically wrong with him. His shirt is stained red with what he claims is paint. This man, as it turns out, is already known to the Finnish police. He's a 36-year-old German expatriate named Hans Osman. His background is shrouded in mystery due to his habit of lying and exaggerating his past. Unsubstantiated claims Hans has made about himself include that he was a Nazi guard at Auschwitz, was reassigned when he fell in love with a Jewish woman, and that he was recruited by the KGB after the war. In spite of his suspect backstory, Hans has an airtight alibi. He claims he was with a girlfriend in Helsinki at the time, and she and her family confirm this story. It would have been nearly impossible for him to drive all the way to Lake Bodom, commit a gruesome crime, and get back to Helsinki without them noticing.
That's crazy.
The authorities dismiss him as a suspect, confident that he's not the man they're looking for, and his red-stained clothes are never tested.
Huh?
Around this time,
who never considered that as a suspect? Oh my god, it's like, hey guys, red paint. But I do need some emergency, I did some shit. Okay? I'm not, and you can never be considered a suspect, so thank you for that. Like, what? That's so crazy. It's like looking at a suspect is like, strong jawline, very blonde, but a red shirt. Yeah, it's not our guy. Oh,
another
crazy.
suspect comes to their attention. It's a local named Carl Chillstrom. 50 years old, Carl owns the roadside stand that the 4 teens visited before heading to the lake. Though often day-to-day operations are handled by his wife and 12-year-old daughter, his wife had directly interacted with the victims on the day before the murder while selling them soft drinks and beer.
Yeah.
Carl is the reason there were so few campers by that side of the lake. He's known to be a temperamental alcoholic who treats the shore of Lake Bodom like it's his backyard. He's had numerous run-ins with campers and day trippers over the years, and has been known to throw rocks at people, cut the cords of tents, and even fire warning shots with his shotgun. He looks nothing like the blonde man in the police sketch, but otherwise he fits the perfect profile of someone who would have a violent outburst at noisy teens. On top of that, he lives just a mere 800 meters from the scene of the crime. However, he too has an alibi. Carl's wife claims that he was with her and their 2 children the entire night the murders took place. And Carl's 12-year-old daughter corroborates this story.
Okay.
No new leads turn up, and the case starts to grow cold.
Man, it's so disgusting. The answers can never be found. An ad? Hell yeah. Oh boy, I got news for you. Uh-oh. If you're enjoying the story, 11 Other Mysteries, you can listen right now. At least I can appreciate the calm music at least. Thank you, Nexpo. Oh man, I still want to listen to that music.
August 1969. 9 years after the murders by Lake Bodom. Carl Chillstrom is drunk again, as usual.
Wait a minute, 9 years? Oh my god, it's almost a decade that mystery is still cold? Oh, it's actually very interesting. So this happened somewhere in the 1960s. Huh, interesting.
Bodom. Carl Chillstrom is drunk again, as usual. He's made his house a living hell for his wife and 2 kids.
Oh.
At the tail end of his most recent binge, his daughter, now 21, has had enough. The 2 of them get into a heated argument, during which she threatens to call the police. Carl leaves the house to cool off and finds a neighbor who will lend a sympathetic ear. The 2 men spend the afternoon together, and their conversation eventually turns serious. Extremely serious.
Okay.
Carl confesses that something has been quietly eating away at him for years. That he, Carl Chillstrom, is the man responsible for the Lake Bodom murders. Through tears, Carl asks what he should do. The neighbor, alarmed by this confession, replies that there's nothing for Carl to do. He might as well just walk into the lake, because he has no future but jail if he confesses to the police.
What?
Carl falls silent for a long time, then finally asks for another drink. That evening, someone tells Carl's son that his father was seen swimming in the lake a little before 6 p.m. Alarmed, Carl's son borrows a boat, speeding to his father's swimming spot. But he can't find him out on the water anywhere.
Oh man, that's so sad.
The family calls the local authorities.
What?
Before long, Carl's body is found 3 meters from where the murders took place. He's clothed, with a pair of wine bottles floating alongside him.
That's so sad.
At first, Carl's wife rushes to defend her dead husband, insisting that the neighbor must have misunderstood what Carl was saying.
Yeah, what?
But in time, she changes her tune. After years of claiming that Carl spent the night of the murders with her, she ultimately admits that Carl had slept on the couch that night. She had been too afraid of her husband to not protect him. The press labeled Carl's death as a suicide, but this was never confirmed by police. For their part, they remain unconvinced that Carl is the killer. The confession was only witnessed.
Yeah, I kind of do. I don't think that he also killed it. Because if he did kill it, then he doesn't have a guilt, or maybe he could have just said anything about it. I don't know actually. But if people have a description of that blonde man, I'm pretty sure I have like all of my bets on that, blonde man with a strong jaw.
By one person, and under unreliable circumstances.
Yeah.
Both men were drunk, and there's still no probable cause. Even though Carl was a drunk who did hate campers with a fiery passion, there's a big difference between harassing people and violently killing them.
Yeah.
For the second time in a decade, they dismiss the possibility that Carl Chillstrom is a killer. Meanwhile, the other long-dismissed Lake Bodom suspect, Hans Osman, actively cultivates a reputation as a Lake Bodom boogeyman. He eagerly tells fanciful, unverifiable stories of his life to true crime magazines. He claims, among other things, that he was a member of the German SS during the Second World War and that he was later employed by the KGB. Though he never admits anything about Lake Bodom, it's clear that he enjoys the limelight. Finally, in 1997, at the age of 73, he invites a journalist to his deathbed. In a rambling interview, he alleges his own involvement in a number of unspecified crimes. The journalist
Okay.
assumes that Hans is referencing another unsolved double murder in the area from 1959, just a year before Lake Bodom. This case, in which two young campers were killed in their tent at night near a lake, bears undeniable similarities to the Lake Bodom case. However,
Okay.
when the journalist inquires directly about Lake Bodom, Hans doesn't confess.
Hmm.
Ultimately, Hans Osman dies shortly thereafter, leaving his true life story clouded by exaggeration.
The only man, it's kind of crazy too because at least in today's world we already have genetics, so you can track them who are the genetic lines of this story. But like, if the killer doesn't have like a wife or a family, there's no finding out on that man. But there are actually cases where people does solve based on genetics. I think it was like the slaughterhouse in Germany. I think it was. There's like a whole entire family that unfortunately been killed, and the suspect has never been identified until like in today's day and age. I think it was somewhere in 2015, I guess. They tried to analyze like the genetics of the family, and they actually recognized that this family, they have like their father, a grandfather, I guess in this case, that already have been found dead. But they didn't reveal who this is because the family is not involved from that murder. Their grandfather was, so it was very very bad, and it's kind of fortunate to like have the thing already solved, but kind of have nothing to do about it. Unfortunately, some people are really just can get away from unfortunate murders like this. Disgusting.
For a while, it seemed like nothing new would ever happen to revive interest in Lake Bodom.
Yeah.
Any hope at truth has been lost to time and crime scene mismanagement.
Yeah. No
The
justice.
90s roll into the early 2000s. And then, shockingly, there's a sudden development. Forensic science has advanced considerably since the 1960s.
Oh yeah, forensic science. You're always like the only one that can, solve this type of cases from, I think, genetics. I don't know about forensic science actually. It is very cool.
Forensic science has advanced considerably since the 1960s, prompting re-examination of old evidence.
Old evidence, yeah.
This directs police to a new suspect.
Really?
And it's one who's been hiding under their nose the entire time.
Oh, I see. It's the survivor, isn't it?
April 2004. Nils Gustafsson has lived a normal life for the past 45 years. Now in his early 60s, he's retired with a wife and 2 kids. The events of Lake Bodom seem so distant now, like they happened to another man in another life.
I called it. It was so bullshit. It was so bullshit. But I called it. It's kind of interesting. Because, like, the moment, like, like the shoes of, I think it was his shoes that was on blood. Like, how did it travel, like, kilometers away from the killing in this incident? And why was he the only one alive with no memories? Like, that was fucking bullshit. Man. But so fucking unfortunate, too. It's like, he's already 60 years old. It's like, life goes on, man. And you can never be found. Also, it's kind of unfortunate that there was like a one person that committed seppuku on the lake because he thought that he is the one who killed them. It's kind of sad. It kind of broke in the family too. Damn it, man! But I knew he was something because the moments like that, I have no memory on that shit. It's like that's bullshit, man. That's an insane, crazy thing. Also, man, I know this is some kind of a jealousy involved of a mystery because like the way she killed Mila was insane, bro. Like broken every part of like her bones, even like stab her. That's so sadistic. Oh man. Also, I am already assuming here, so let's just see what this mystery will unfold. because who knows, maybe something will happen. He may be not the one who is the suspect here, so we'll see.
That is, until he receives a visit from the police.
Oh shit.
They tell him that he's under arrest for the murder of Anya, Mila, and Seppo, and
Okay.
he's shocked. There's no statute of limitations on murder, but Nils had moved on from that traumatic period of his life.
Okay.
Or at least, so he thought. The blunders the police made back in 1960 make it a particularly thorny case to relitigate.
Yeah.
But one particular
also true.
piece of evidence seems to have opened up new possibilities. The
Okay.
bloody shoes that belonged to Nils.
Yes,
The
that
ones
one.
that were found over a kilometer away from the scene of the crime.
That's also weird.
A forensic analysis of the shoes determines that the blood came from Nils' murdered friends, but none of it is from Nils himself. The conclusion prosecutors draw from this is that the killer was wearing shoes when he attacked the tent, and the killer, by this reasoning, is Nils
Yes,
himself.
Yeah. But also, it's kind of interesting, like how he self-mutilate himself. That even like the police, have the police are even like weirded out by this, or even like trusting that he's been attacked in this case.
The original description Nils gave of the attacker, that of the blonde man with the square jaw, is no longer considered relevant, as it was given under hypnosis. And so, Nils is held in jail for a year, preparing for his defense. While he waits, the case becomes a media sensation. Long dormant speculation about the murders splashes across tabloid headlines.
Man, this is also very bad from his family. Yes, the father was like, very bad in this case, but like, you can also like consider like all of your family. In this case, they have no involvement on this like murders and stuff. And one day, you just learned that your father was a murderer. Crazy. You gotta get bullied.
It's now where they have a juicy new angle to explore in this case. The lurid story of a teen who murdered his girlfriend and got away with it for 45 years.
5 years, yeah. Crazy.
August 2005. The trial begins. The prosecution paints a damning story of what happened almost a half-century ago. They theorize that June 4th was a tense day by the lake. Nils had gotten drunk and became aggressive, fighting with his girlfriend Mila. It got so bad that he was exiled by the others from their shared tent. After midnight, Seppo attempted to calm him down. This was unsuccessful, sparking a fight between the two boys. Seppo had won this fight, explaining the blunt force trauma that Nils suffered to his jaw and skull. Seppo then returned to their tent, leaving the defeated Nils behind. Sometime after 4 a.m., when he was sure the others were asleep, Nils returned to the tent with a knife and a rock. He viciously stabbed and bludgeoned his friends to death, then made it look like a burglary. He took the keys for the motorcycles, Seppo's leather jacket, their wallets and watches, and got rid of them somewhere nearby, likely the lake. This explains why the motorcycle keys were missing, but the murderer did not use either vehicle for a quick getaway. Once he staged the scene, Nils got rid of his shoes and returned to the scene of the crime, where he laid down beside his dead girlfriend and waited for their bodies to be discovered.
That's so disgusting.
The injuries Nils had received earlier that evening at the hands of Seppo helped make it seem as if the killer had attacked him as well. The prosecution's case hangs on two key pieces of evidence: the shoes, which were likely worn by the murderer, and the state of the tent, which had been slashed.
Ribbons, yeah. But in this case, if you were the jury in that case, it's like there is still reasonable doubt, What if there was a killer there? What if he's not the one that actually kills his friends? There's also that possibility. But I think the evidence itself, speaks itself, of course, in this case, because the shoes was very weird, and the second thing is like He didn't remember a thing. Like, yeah, buddy.
to
No.
ribbons. Nils, who had been found lying on top of the tent,
Damn.
had only received wounds to his head. The
Ah.
prosecutor claims that he would have been severely cut as well if
cut.
he had been inside alongside them.
Yeah.
The other pieces of evidence are circumstantial. The state of the bodies implies things about the killer that the prosecution say can only be explained by their story. Of the 3 bodies, Mila's was left in the worst state.
Yeah.
She was stabbed many times, even
my
after she
God.
died, and her lower body was stripped naked.
Oh,
This, the prosecution
shit.
says, shows us that Nils was furious at his girlfriend
yeah.
in particular. A random burglar would not target one of the 2 girls so brutally.
Like, what the fuck?
Nils' lawyer does not account for the blood on the shoes, nor does she account for the awful state of Mila's body. But she does provide a stirring rebuttal to the allegation that her client is some sort of mastermind at staging a crime scene.
Okay.
If the prosecution is to be believed, then that means Nils committed a crime of passion out of blind rage, then arranged the scene meticulously to hide his horrible deeds.
Yeah.
She implies that someone who has just murdered 3 people on violent impulse does not lie down and pretend to be unconscious beside his victims. Besides, there's a factor that the prosecution has completely overlooked.
That's also true, man. That's actually a good defense. It's like, who in their mind, like, even lay dead from his victims? That's just crazy. In your mind, like, killing all of your friends in that case, and you're just lying there? Like, that's just like, I don't know, you're maybe I don't know, you maybe lost your sanity at that point. Or either 2, you may be so fucking angry about, like, all of this, like, your former friends. You just fucking murdered them. Like, holy shit. And the way she actually have this defense and, like, this rebuttal is like, you as a person who just killed, you don't just, especially if you're friends for a long time, you just don't, like, lay there. This is very interesting defense from the lawyer. But for me, it's like, I don't know. I always trust the evidence in here, so I think he might be guilty in this one. Like, no matter, despite, like, the weird stuff that, you know, he lays with his body of friends, I'm pretty sure he was just really blinded by all the rage in this case. Because even in other cases, it's like there's no other evidence that, you know, there may be burglar in this case, or some serial killer is, you know, outside from parts of the lake. So yeah.
The severity of the injuries Nils received that same night. When he was picked up by police, Nils had a broken jaw and skull fractures. He was unable to speak due to his severe head injuries. Pictures of him at the hospital following the attack show his entire jaw bandaged and braced, and one of his eyes swollen shut. The prosecution story alleges that these injuries came from a fight with Seppo sometime after 2 a.m. while Mila was writing her diary.
Or maybe this may be self-inflicted wounds. He maybe self-inflicted himself in order to, you know, or to feel, I guess, genuine that that he has been injured in this case. But it's also very hard to grasp that. I'm pretty sure there was a way that he's attempting to seppuku himself, but he failed, so that's why he survived? Question mark?
Diary entry, and Anya was probably already asleep. This means that Seppo hurt his friend badly enough that Nils couldn't even talk the following morning. Would a young man with head injuries this severe be able to overpower 3 people even if he surprised them? Would he have been able to walk half a mile away from the campsite to dispose of his incriminating shoes before returning and pretending to be unconscious?
It's possible. You know, nothing is impossible in this case. I still think he's really the one who murdered all his friends. The only evidence here is really just the shoes. That's only why I'm basing why he is the one that murdered his friends. And I guess I'm pretty biased on that because I base my belief because of that one evidence. I maybe, like, you know, tunnel vision on that bloody shoes. But I don't know. There are a lot of possibilities. But I also don't. It does makes me doubt the evidence itself, because like it is kind of true that he did he did left the shoes like a kilometers away. That's very far, especially like it only happens like possibly like 4 p.m. and they were found like 6 a.m. So there were like 3 hours that their body was found. It's kind of interesting. I don't. I really don't know, but I'm really sure for certain that the killer here is Nils, just based on the shoes. That's I'm just like basing my stuff on that.
Head wounds are temperamental things. They can impede clear thought, memory, motor functions. The version of Nils Gustafsson that the prosecution is painted is someone who was both severely injured and preternaturally controlled in his revenge. This picture of Nils, his attorney argues, does not square with the facts. Besides, there's always the fact that teenage Nils' hair was decidedly more brown than blonde. Nils, for his part, maintains that his own memory of the night in question is spotty thanks to his head injuries.
Hmm.
In the end, the jury finds Nils not guilty.
Yeah.
He's released from custody and is allowed to return to his quiet life with his family. But even still, he's not done with his life in the spotlight. The last year has been a harrowing relitigation of the most traumatic event of his life.
True.
And so, Nils sues the Finnish government for unjustified
Interesting.
imprisonment. The case is settled, and Nils walks away with the payment of nearly 45,000 euros.
There's really like doubtful. I'm also doubtful with my own type of beliefs, because man, does the shoes really held up from this case? Or did he really just didn't kill all his friends? But it is pretty crazy though. If all of that, just. But man, the shoes is very weird. Like, how did that bloody shoes? Maybe some people, stole the evidence within the tent and like probably throw that, shoes like a kilometer away. Maybe. That's also a possibility in this case. Man, that's so crazy. You know what? I'm actually kind of doubting myself here with the evidence at hand. Maybe he didn't kill his friends. Maybe. But also, who else is out there, It's very, very scary. But I don't know if I can say this, but I'm pretty sure he got the best life that he can, man, like after a tragic death. But I'm still, man, I'm really questioning myself here. Even this is so mysterious that even I am conflicted by myself.
Nils' life eventually goes back to normal, and his
Hell yeah,
innocence is never questioned again.
Hmm.
So, who's responsible for the Lake Bodom murders? Was it Hans Osman, the unreliable attention seeker, who loved to imply that he knew more than he let on, even making many suspicious statements on his deathbed? Was it Carl Chillstrom, who was often violent towards campers at the lake he considered his property? Was it Nils Gustafsson, who committed a crime of passion that could never be proven in court? Or was it a random person, long
was it
since
a random
disappeared,
person?
somewhere in Finland? Curiously, another suspect came to light in the late 1960s, just a couple months before Carl took his own life.
Okay.
A man named Pentti Soininen, who hanged himself while in prison. For many years, he bragged to fellow inmates that he committed the Lake Bodom murders. He did indeed grow up near Lake Bodom, but otherwise his claims were given little credence by police. Soininen was only 14 or 15 years old at the time of the murders, and it seems unlikely he could have overpowered 4 people, 2 of whom were 18-year-old men.
Yeah, it's still, whoa, they're 18 years old? And one of them is a 12 years old? And one of them is a 14 years old? What? So both of them are 18, one is a 12 years old, and one is a 14 years old. Huh. I don't know what to do with this information, but okay. But still, it's still a bigger mystery. You know, how does the four of them? Well, maybe they're asleep and the two were pretty drunk at that night. Still crazy though. Still very crazy. Like four of them has been overpowered. If there was even one killer in that case, that's crazy because they can still have a way to fight. But it is a pretty well planned to even execute. You know, like cutting the cords within the tent and just like stab them. That is a very specific strategy. It's crazy. It's crazy that it even like pulled off by the murderer. Huh.
Though guilty of plenty of other crimes, Soininen is considered innocent in the Lake Bodom murders. However, his alleged confession shows a chilling possibility.
True.
Perhaps the murderer's name was never known to police at all. The tall blonde man, supposedly on the shores that morning and allegedly photographed among the crowd at the funeral in 1960, was never identified. Even if he was just a bystander who looked suspicious to passers-by, the real murderer could be just as anonymous.
Anonymous, yeah. Could be anyone.
A nameless face in the crowd that helped trample evidence after the killing.
Disgusting.
And lest we forget, the murder weapon has, to this day, never been found. Wherever it lies, whether at the bottom of Lake Bodom, buried on its shores, or somewhere else entirely, even the midnight sun may never reach it.
Shit. That's so unfortunate, man. Ooh, scary.
Thank you guys so much for listening to another video adaptation of my podcast, Late Nights with Nexpo. Right now, there are tons of exclusive mysteries available for you to listen to wherever you get your podcasts. So after,
I guess I'm gonna end it there, friends. Also, who draw all of this art? Because those art and the way that it's been made within this video is like top notch, man. Does it has a description? Because I really want to know who the artist here is. And yes, it is by Rick Ruano. The art is the one that draws all this art. It's also kind of cool, like he draws the art and not using AI in this case. I'll be very fucking mad. But hey, at least he commissioned an artist. That's very crazy because the art really tells a lot. Also, the color palette has also been improved in this video because in the past it's always like very dark. In this case, there's now more orange and there's more red, and it really tells the harrowing stuff that happens within the lake, you know. And yeah, god damn it. I really wish that this will be solved more in the future, man. But with all of the unfortunate, you know, genetic stuff has been, you know, trampled by all of the evidence. It's like a needle in a haystack, man, that you can never unfortunately found because the needle doesn't even exist within the haystack. So yeah, friends, that's a lot. I also have to edit this video and there's gonna be a long day for me tomorrow. So yeah, friends, thank you for watching, and my name is Tizona, and good evening and also good night because, you know, I'm going to sleep right now. Thank you.